All right, hello out there. This is Transparency and Merit with Brian and Joe. This is Stoicism and Anger Management. And we're going to talk today how they are similar and how they are different. And basically, the similarities is both are about emotional regulation. Both Stoicism and anger management emphasize the importance of regulating emotions, including anger. They recognize that uncontrolled anger can lead to harmful consequences. And Joe, how about you describe what you think anger management is, and I will respond from there. And I might have a few other questions for you. Let's go.
Okay, we can do that. Anger management is all about identifying how anger impacts a life. And my personal I think the key in my view is always to be able to identify the physiological impact anger has, because uh, that usually is the last thing. It's kind of like, starting your car and not knowing how much oil's in it. It's the most vital aspect of it. Of course, unchecked could lead a judge to have someone spend 52 weeks in sessions with me. It's happened. Anyways, but yeah, that's the gist of it. I mean, uh, these days, cognitive behavioral thought restructuring um, is probably like the most common methodology for going at it.
Joey, what would be your response if somebody had a supervisor or a parent that seemed to have narcissistic behavior or cluster B style uh, behavior or exhibited narcissistic behavior, like in, I would say, narcissistic abuse? What would be your response as far as anger management is concerned? How would they handle a problem like that?
That's the hard part, because it's not your problem. It's not anyone else's problem. It's that person's problem. So I ignore them, and there's some situations where ignoring is very difficult. I realize that, but in the end, you cannot control another person in that way, and you let them fall on their own sword every time.
Now, this may be off topic, but I've heard the two places where narcissists cannot abuse or have limited abuse is in prison and in the military, because they can lose their life. But again, what if because it's easy to ignore uh, like a friend, you can just defriend them. But if they are your supervisor and you need that job, or they are a parent and you need a place to live and they can expel you, what is your advice to the person dealing with that kind of abuse? And, because sometimes they do want to do them harm, they want to smash them in the face and they want to kick them in the nether regions. How do you how do you tell them, hey man, it's not worth
So in the office, there's generally real, real bad, rampant, and I feel this is a systemic issue, but there's rampant passive aggressiveness in offices because of behaviors like that. So one person thinks that they can behave any way they want, and when ignoring doesn't work, document it's all about documenting. And if you work anywhere where salt, there's an HR department, and they're the ones you communicate with. You just go right there. You don't even pass go. You be that bitch. You be the one who's like, nope, not going there, because that's what they want, a corporate entanglement, and that's not. I can't deal with that personally. So, it's hard for me to say go tell on them, but if you're in a situation where your job depends on it, absolutely, you got to document everything. Documentation. So that's why everybody's got their phones, their cameras rolling. Yeah, it's kind of an ugly scene, but you know what I mean. Like, there's all these ways to document now, and uh, don't think it's not used, in the other way. It is. It's, we're constantly being watched. We're constantly having documentation put on us. We're the ones that are always up for salary increases and requests for vacations, and running late situations. So there's all these other things. So communication is the key. And and so then you have these strategies of other strategies of dealing with it. And a lot of times that's when the passive aggressiveness comes out. And there's really four ways of dealing with anger. You can be aggressive, you can be passive aggressive, you can be assertive, um, and what was the other one? What am I missing? um, Inaction. But there's all kind. There's um, those don't really work. I think like what, well, passive aggressiveness, it seems to kind of patch it up, but it creates other problems always, and usually somebody gets thrown under the bus. And with aggressiveness, when you meet that head on aggressively, sometimes, in some corporate structures, that they want that. They want the ones who climb, that ladder quickly are those, sometimes that's the answer. Not for me.
So really, what you have to do is I guess fight in intelligently, and not let your emotions get the better of you. Now, I'm a fight fan, and I remember Customato always talked about fear, and fear is if you can recognize and acknowledge your fear, uh, you can be a good fighter. Uh, and I just think that both fear, I believe that anger stems from fear, fear of losing, fear of being humiliated. On average, would you expound on that, or do you think that is a wrong thing? That anger does not stem from fear?
I don't know. It's fear is interesting, but fear is a programming concern. So how we're parented, what we've been subjected to in our lifetimes, what will we buy into, where our ego is. I don't know. I don't really
I
deal
well,
with those people. I avoid them at all costs. They're
I,
dangerous, in my opinion.
I want to go back on it and say that fear and anger are kind of related, but you know what? I want to just step back and say I think a lot of anger stems from hypocrisy and uh,
I think it
stems from.
stems from a lack of being able to communicate. And so, as a substitute, the sort of animal instinct is allowed to roam wild. And I don't think, that anger doesn't get people very far anymore, and not in this sort of so-called civil realm.
Well, I think it depends on who's expressing the anger.
And the corporate
Um,
culture, for sure.
But I think for me, what always made me angry was that something was done unfair. And for me, my anger, um, what always stemmed my anger was a sense that I was being treated unfairly. That is where,
Did it make you angry when if your dad ever said, "Well, who told you the world was fair?"
yeah, it did because, in my opinion, I know you would say that life's not fair, and my opinion is life may not be fair, but you should be. And I don't think that's a good thing to say when you're being unfair. And
And when you've been under attack for from maybe someone who's been being overly vicious, who do you go to if even your own dad, or in my case, my dad would say, "Well, who told you life was fair?" Well, like you said, right? They can be unfair. I'm gonna practice. Um, I'm going to see what shakes out in the end if I continue to try to be fair, and I do. I try to be fair, and and I get run over sometimes. Be honest, because people are blinded by their egos.
well, I think that when a parent says life is unfair while they're being unfair, it is a kind of a narciss. It feels like a narcissistic kind of behavior because uh, if I would like to think if I had a child, I would always try to be fair and and consider their feelings. And again, I think being fair and being noble are good things. And when those standards aren't being reached, I think the person is being a bad parent. And when a person says life isn't fair, I mean, there are times when it's like a life lesson when other people other than a parent is unfair, but a parent should always strive to be fair. Because what that tells me is I'm an unfair person. I mean, because there are plenty of things in life that are unfair, but a parent and a human being should always strive to be fair and noble. Do you have any response to that? Because I was going to
You know,
go.
it reminds me of some stories, things that happened in my past, that when I was younger and much more angry, and when things happened that I felt were unfair, I tried to remedy it. And from my perspective, a remedy is nothing more than putting a band-aid over melanoma. It doesn't do a damn thing. So I'm far more interested in the cure. But I'm, as I got old, I found as I got older, I had to find more natural outlets that gave me that mental flexibility. So when something happened or something happens that affects me, maybe economically or at my work, or in some way affects me, um, then I'm a little more prepared for it. But yeah, man, as a youth, growing up, man, it was like, oh, well, if this can happen to me, I'm going to go do that right back. And that backfired on me enough times. Uh, it took me a few learning lessons, but as I progressed, I learned better strategies, and that people are going to do what they're going to do, and you've got to have that remaining flexibility to be able to adjust.
You know what? For me, I have found that they have both the Gandhi and the John Wayne philosophy, and both of them are misguided. Uh, you should resist and fight back when you have a chance to win. But if you don't and the fighting is futile, your best option is to flee. But I'm not a passive. Well, you have a definition of pacifism that I'd like to hear, but
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the pilgrims that that came here. Were was it the Pilgrims, or maybe there was some before that? Not the Pilgrims I'm thinking of, but there was a pacifist group that came and were in a position to make laws. And, uh, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, that violence should be a last resort always, and that doesn't doesn't mean if somebody steps on my property or comes at me sideways and threatens me or my family, then I'm going to defend myself very quickly. I'm not going to wait, and that's not going to bode well for anyone. But other than that, violence, I feel that the pen is mightier than the sword, and things can always be worked out in a different sort of way.
And I would agree with you. The discipline of that, which I'm striving to gain, is discipline, particularly against what I see is a very authoritarian establishment right now. And like I'm just a small voice in the wilderness out there. I wanted to get out to point two of mindfulness. Both Stoicism and anger management techniques advocate mindful and self-awareness. The encouragement, they encourage individuals to become aware of their emotional reactions and triggers. And I think oftentimes taping people, seeing them on film, gives them a sense of self awareness at times that they didn't have. And a lot of times when people first hear themselves or they haven't heard themselves in a long time on tape, they are shocked at how they come across. And I remember watching couples therapy, and I remember the wife seeing the video, and she said, I didn't know how selfish I came across. And I wonder how often that is, how often people are simply unaware of how they look when they see themselves on film. I don't know if you have any experience of that, Joe, when people actually analyze themselves. Do you have any experience on that?
My only experience is what I had on myself. So when I went through training, and I had I was in a practicum, and I served 3,000 clinical hours, and they were all recorded, and I had to learn to adjust so many things. I had to slow down. I had to remove words that I was continually uttering in between other words. I had to, and I also had to provide structure and evidence in what I was saying, and use evidence-based treatments. So, and this was all observed and replayed to me by my supervisor. And man, that was to me, that was the military. That was boot camp. That was boot that I never went to the military, but that was the closest, I guess, for me. It was like mental boot camp, and it taught me a lot of really important lessons, and that I still allow to creep up and defeat me sometimes. But I think for the most part, I've at least learned to recognize it if I'm doing something too much, or not saying enough when I have that opportunity to really quell an issue. Then that's something to continually battle through my life.
People should realize, and I think one of the things that people who are disruptive and angry and filled with ego should be filmed, and they should be forced to look at themselves on film and
Well,
actually look at their
don't they
behavior.
do that already? Aren't those like the rock stars?
I'm talking about a lot of these activists who go on, who go on their crusades and behave in the way that they do. I don't think many of them know the way in which they come across. I'm going to play this clip. This is something that made me really angry, and I have always been against the left. And
well, wait, one thought on that, because I don't know about you, but in my life, I've done and said things that later I can reconsidered and thought, oh, well, what I did, may have lit up a situation and may have gotten a point across. It doesn't mean that it was the truth, or it was, or if it was based in any sort of method that could be evidenced with fact. So, for me, it's always been about self-reflection. If someone's incapable of self-reflection, to me, I think that's a problem. Also, I have an inner voice. I don't know if that's me labeling something, but like in my mind, and and as I'm going through my day, um, there are times when I may think of something and think that it's a really great idea, and it seems to be a voice in there that checks it, like, wait, you've got A, B, and C to still do, and maybe if you do that wrong, there's a consequence, or and so, I mean, I don't break it all down like that. It's almost like instantaneous, but I do have that ability. And I think maybe I've talked to people who say they don't have an inner voice. They don't have that. And so I don't know, maybe I'm a little, it taught me a lot of lessons about myself. Am I premeditating my actions a little too much? Maybe. So, I try to be more fluid. I try to be more natural. But man, what an interesting concept, in my view.
you know, sometimes I think because I've been reading a little bit about overcoming procrastination, and I have heard that at times if you overthink something, you'll think your way out of it. I wanted to. This clip made me angry, and I spend my time on social media, and maybe it is anger porn for me, but this is something that that the woke left does. That they allow, that they would never allow on the other extreme. I'm only gonna play the audio. I'm not gonna play the video, but I just want you to listen to this. Wait, hold on. I got him on mute. Gosh darn it. What am I doing here? Hold on, folks. Do 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 do.
Just too low.
Yeah, I don't know why I have it on mute. Where is the sound here? Let me just hold on a second here while I fill her up. All right, here we go. All right. So bear with me, folks. Hopefully, let me do the shorts here. Do 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 do. Hold on while I play this clip. This is something that it was really nasty, and it shows the hypocrisy of the left. And why is there no sound? Let me look here. Why is there no sound coming off of this? Let me see here. And if I don't have, if I can't play it, I can't. Let me see here. Oh wait, here it is. Okay, there's a little. Can I? And I cannot. Okay, let me go back on this real quick. Hold on, folks, while I get my life in order here. Going to this. Going to the. Let's go to the shorts. And I had this queued up, and then I tried to play with it, and then I
blame it on the Jews.
Yeah, I'll blame it on the Jews. There we go.
When they losing money, that racism goes away fast. Yeah. It's like when you see a homeless white person, a lot of times they be mad humble, don't they? Yeah. They be like, brother, hey, if he was paid and had money, would he be calling me brother?
Not at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll ask him. You ever said it before?
And I'd be like,
wait.
nah.
I just wait.
I'd be like, no.
And I go, you're a
Let me get that
liar.
dollar.
I go, you're a liar, and now you're going hungry. And then if he says yes, I'm like, why would I feed you?
And I'm not showing the clip, but that's Godfrey. And Godfrey, by the way, again, he was born in Nigeria. And this is another black person. I think he's Puerto Rican, though. But I think both of his parents are not like, I don't know what I remember Puerto Rican is, Puerto Rico is considered I believe a territory. But again, this is really cruel, hypocritical behavior, and it did make me angry. Joey, do you have a response to a clip like that that I just played from Godfrey? And I forget the other guy. I think his last name is Nero or whatever. But I don't think these people should have any sway because I see them as extreme egocentrics. Do you have anything to say on that clip, Joey?
I don't think I heard it, but I do know that Puerto Rico is a free, what is it? A free associated state of Puerto Rico. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's technically called. It's a Caribbean island, unincorporated territory.
So I'm gonna end on this. In summary, while both Stoicism and anger management share a common goal of emotional regulation and self-control, they differ in underlying philosophies and approaches to emotions, and ultimately objectives. Stoicism offers a broader philosophical framework for living a virtuous life, while anger management provides specific techniques for managing and reducing anger.
It's about the tools that are amassed, just to be able to use the dipstick on your car. It's knowing your body, how your body reacts. It's gaining the tools. So you have a bag of tricks. So when somebody ticks you off, you can access them. So it's not always fully ingrained or enmeshed into the DNA, or what I mean, to a personality. It's more of sometimes it is. I mean, that's what the cognitive behavioral approach is. It's actually taking thoughts and it's restructuring them by pointing out their faults, by playing that video or that audio of someone who doesn't know any better. And so cognitive behavioral really does address those things in a real effective way. It's just maybe a little hard to get there with some people.
Well, I mean, for me, I mean, sometimes reacting out on my anger because someone's hurt me, by nature, um, I want the other person to kind of feel the same way I'm feeling. If you're going to make me feel bad, by nature, I'm going to want to do the same to you. And if I can't do the same, I will resist or flee. Because someone who will disrespect you will do other, in my opinion, will do other things to you, and they are people, again, to resist or flee.
Indeed.
And, yeah. So with that being said,
or I should say, in reality, that is correct. Don't stay around people that are going to damage you in those ways. And if they're in a position to, if they're in a position to affect your job, what resources can you access then? You have to go and do what it takes for your own survival, if nothing else. Okay, that's all I got.
It's always good to make a plan. With any conflict, it's always good to make a plan and strategize before you do anything, whether it's peaceful or not peaceful. And anger management and stoicism can help with both of those goals. So be mindful. It takes work, but it is more intelligent to act in that way. thank you for listening. And hopefully you like and subscribe and maybe even share this show on other parts of social media.
Maybe we'll get to a point where we could do more shows like almost every night like we were doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.